What up, guys? Coach Joe here. It is Mobility Monday. What I want to review today or talk about with you is ankle mobility. And I know I've talked about that several times, but I want to attack it from a different perspective today. A lot of people, when we work with people here at Breakaway, our goal is to get them into a good, solid, deep squat where your backside goes below your knee. When that happens, you get more stimulation here and you get more stimulation back here. So it pays off in the long run and you get more bang for your buck with a squat. Noah. Now, when you are, not everybody can get down that low. In fact, sometimes you'll see a lot of different squats present in different ways. Oftentimes, people can't get that low into a squat because they get a pinching sensation here in the front of their joint, or they have tightness back here that doesn't allow them to get into that position. So there's two different ways that we can attack that issue, the mobility at the ankle, when we're looking at a deep squat, or really ankle mobility in general. Depending on whether or not you have that pinching type sensation here, or whether you don't have that there and there's a restriction here. Now, the first thing to start with is there's a little really super basic test we can use. There's a gentleman who runs a group called Squat University. You can check him out on Instagram. He's awesome. He does what's called a 5-inch ankle mobility test. So ideally, you would be barefoot for this test. You want to measure from the wall, from this part, not this part. You want to measure about 5 inches, and you'll plant your heel to the ground, toes to the ground. So we got our good tripod foot stance. Knee is in line with the foot. And I'm going to drive my knee forward and try to touch that wall. Now, right now my heel is down and my knee is touching the wall. So I've got sufficient ankle mobility based on what the national averages and norms are to go ahead and start working out and do some solid deep squats in terms of my ankle. Now, if you did this test, like a few minutes ago I did this before I practiced for this video, and I couldn't get my knee to the wall. So if my knee stopped before it hit the wall and I felt a pinching sensation here, then we would do some banded ankle mobilizations. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. Now, if I did that and I got my knee to the wall and I didn't feel any pinching here, which now I can kind of feel it a little bit, and you would be in this position. If my knee does not go to the wall or my knee caves in, and I did not feel any pinching here, then we probably got a tissue restriction or tightness in that calf. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to work on either of those so that you can squat better, pain-free, and get more out of your workout. So to begin, let's say I did that test and I had a pinching sensation on the front of my ankle. I'm going to do what's called an ankle mobilization or a banded joint mobilization. Different people call it different things, and different people do this different ways. I like to get into the band and elevate my foot somehow. That's my 1-year-old you hear behind the camera right there. Let's pause. So let's say for the test that we just went through, I felt a pinching sensation in the front of my ankle. I'm going to do what's called a banded joint mobilization, and this is to help position the joint in a way that allows my knee, or my lower leg bone, the main one, the tibia, to go as far forward as it needs to. Now, in that process, there's a bone called the talus that's right below the tibia that also has to slide backwards. So if you can picture that tibia being here, the talus is sort of like this, and as my knee goes forward as I drop into that squat, this has to slide back, the talus does. So we can use the band to help pull that talus back and open up some space in that joint. So what I would do, you want to put this band on, and I'm going to put it pretty close to that joint right there, or mostly on the top of my foot. So not up here on the leg, because we're not trying to move the tibia. The talus, the bottom one, is the one that has to move back. So I'm going to go low, and I'm going to elevate my foot just a little bit, because I want a little bit of a downward pull to it so that talus can slide back. Now, sometimes this gets tricky, because you do need a lot of pressure on this band. So I'm going to walk this out, and I got to really skirt my foot up here, because I want to get a lot of pressure. And then I'm going to reposition this band down on that bone. And all I'm going to do is keep my heel down. If my heel comes up, I've gone further than my body can handle. And I'm going to push that knee forward. And I'm going to hold there for about 5 seconds. And then I'll come back. Go forward. Hold that for about 5 seconds. Just try to relax this. Don't tense up. And then come back. So you go through that anywhere from 10 to 20 times. Just go forward. Hold for 5 seconds, and then come back. You can go back to the wall and then retest. And most times, most people with joint mobilizations, we get noticeable benefits right away. Like you can feel it and you'll see it in one of those tests. Now, if it didn't work, then it's worth considering some stretching and some foam rolling techniques, especially if you didn't have the pinching sensation to begin with here, but you still couldn't get your knee to the wall. So this is the other scenario that we started to talk about there. So I can hop on this foam roller. We're gonna put my calf on there, kind of right above the Achilles tendon. Sometimes you can work up into here. I'm gonna go a little bit lower, because usually there's a deeper calf muscle here that can affect the knee when our knee is bent. So I'm gonna put that there, put this other foot on top, and I'm gonna lift up to create more pressure. And I'm gonna roll slowly until I find a spot that's really tender. So for me, that's about right there. And then I wanna take that bottom foot, this one, through some range of motion. So I'm gonna stretch that musculature and that connective tissue and then relax. And some people will do these as foot slaps. They'll come up and slap down. They'll come up, slap down. A lot of people get on foam rollers and they get on here and they roll really fast. That doesn't do much for the actual connective tissue. It doesn't help change it like we need it to be so that we can squat effectively. So when you get on the foam roller, I'd spend some time doing this you can go through, usually I go through it 4 times and I do 4 of those foot slaps each time that I go through it. So again, slide Noah out of the way here. I'm gonna elevate and then stretch that ankle. So just bring it up and drop it down. Big deep breaths. Now I can go back to the wall and I can do that 5-inch ankle test again and see if it's any better compared to how it was earlier. So what we talked about today for Mobility Monday is ankle mobility, whether you have issues here with a joint restriction or some type of stiffness or inflexibility or tightness on the back of the leg. A lot of people have a combination of both, but if you haven't spent a lot of time in a deep squat with the heel down, oftentimes you'll feel that pinching sensation in the front. So I hope this helps you. If you have any questions, please throw them in the comments below.